Oh, good morning, Eric Boehlert.
Hey, good morning.
So I was just getting through your great pieces and tweets, and then the Iran tweet last night. Your thoughts, Eric, on the latest?
Help us.
It's obviously a distraction, right? He's in his North Korea mode. He thought that worked well for him. He got everyone excited about an impending war. No other president has ever gotten himself excited by talking about, an impending war. But look, he's clearly, I don't know if we saw the clip, but when he and Melania returned to the White House last night, he was greeted with chants of "lock him up."
Oh, it was great, and he heard it. It was fantastic.
He absolutely heard it.
Yeah.
He absolutely heard it. So he's been, he's been throwing a temper tantrum all morning, pretending up is down with the Carter page and the FISA thing, and going down that rabbit hole. And obviously Iran is just his way to, try to change the subject. And none of this is going away. I mean, Putin's coming to the White House. Every Republican candidate in this country is going to be asked 10 different times, who do you support, the Pentagon or the Kremlin? This stuff is all unraveling, and he's unraveling. And it was a week. It's been 7 days from that press conference, from that summit.
I know.
And Bill Shine confirms he's the worst communications director in the history of the country.
Let's start just with Friday. Obviously, the Michael Cohen tapes comes out.
Yeah, right,
as you write, apparently when informed about it, Trump said, "I can't believe Michael would do this to me." You know what? Scumbag. It's so nice when scumbags meet each other, because of course he would do this to him.
And it's funny because so much of this Trump presidency is a reflection of his New York City days. Whether it's Scaramucci or Cohen or Manafort or any of these guys, or Hannity or Giuliani. I mean, all these guys played this New York City game. They saw themselves as kind of wise guys, and they had an in with the FBI, and they could tell Fox, they could go on Fox News anytime they wanted. But now it's kind of turning on them, and it turns out they tape record one another when they talk about paying off Playboy models on the eve of an election.
Right. By the way, that Rudy Giuliani says is exculpatory.
Yeah.
And did you follow the thread as to why that would be? Huh?
Yeah. And right. So, imagine if, Bill Clinton had paid off National Enquirer not to run a Paula Jones story. I mean,
right.
I don't think that would have gone over too well. So, exculpatory, whatever. I mean, Rudy has proven himself to be just as big a chronicle liar as Trump. So all this stuff is unraveling. But the interesting part, back to New York, is, they never cared. I think they all kind of casually broke the law regularly, but nobody cared, and they knew they were never going to get called out, and they didn't care whether there was a paper trail. And now all of this sloppy, illegal behavior is catching up to them, because there are paper trails, and there's the Republican prosecutor who's going to uncover all of it.
Right. Yeah, my favorite story was, where was that? Oh, Michael Cohen has privately started telling people he thinks Trump may be unfit for office. I'm like, oh, now a warning? This just occurred to you now. I see.
Now a warning?
Yeah.
The epiphany arrives.
Yeah, I mean, and here's the other thing we were saying. I think that part of what's led to this meltdown last night and today is, as we were saying, Trey Gowdy, there's just starting to be cracks, right, in his support. Trey Gowdy spoke out about him doing his latest flip-flop on Trump-Russia, calling it a hoax again. Marco Rubio said the FISA warrant was completely proper on Carter Page, right? I mean,
the problem is, and Politico has an article this morning in that, 4 or 5, even 6 months ago, the Republican Party did not think Russia was going to be a defining issue in the campaign, and a lot of people thought, Democrats were overplaying their hand, and nobody cares about Russia and all of this. But what we're seeing with Rubio and Gowdy and other people, I mean, Gowdy's, heading out of town, he doesn't care anyway. But there's a realization last week, particularly with that stunning press conference, particularly with Putin being invited. This is, like I said, this is going to be a defining issue in the midterm elections. It's not going to be the issue. It's going to be a defining issue. They're going to get hurt on health care. They're going to get hurt on corruption. They're going to get hurt on a lot of things.
Trade war,
Yeah, absolutely. These tariffs are going to kill them, particularly in red states. But the Republican Party has no answer on Trump and Putin. They can do the radical, Devin Nunes. It's all deep state. It's all conspiracy. That's not going to play in a general election. We saw there was a video over the weekend. I think it was Stewart in Virginia, the Republican nominee for Senate. He was in some forum and he got up there and he said Trump has been tough on Russia, and he forgot he wasn't talking to Fox News. He literally got laughed off.
Yeah, people I know laughed in his face.
So if the Republican Party facing a general election electorate in October and November does not have an answer for Trump Russia, they just don't.
And you quoted
so the panic is setting in.
One Republican congressman, Will Hurd of Texas, said, over the course of my career as an undercover officer in the CIA, I saw Russian intelligence manipulate people. I never thought I'd see the day when an American president would be one of them. By playing into Putin's hands, the leader of the free world is actively participated in a Russian disinformation campaign that legitimized Russian denial, weakened the credibility of the United States to both our friends and foes abroad. Granted, he's in a district that Hillary Clinton won by 3 points, right? But
the backstory on that is interesting. He is on a district, southern Texas. He has been getting hammered on Trump's racist immigration because the district is 40% Latino, and it's a district that Hillary won. So he's seeing his political life flash before his eyes, and so he's one of the few. But he's out there trying to get out in front of this, trying to show I'm independent. Now his voting record is 94% in favor, in complete lockstep with Trump. But it's just a very interesting example of how Republicans, I think, are in panic mode because they see how all of this is unfolding. And Trump's temper tantrum this morning isn't going to help anything because everyone knew his walk back last week was going to last about 4 hours. He didn't even know what he was reading off that piece of paper.
He looked like even he didn't believe that BS. It's like, really? We're just going to say wouldn't instead of would've?
I'm not sure about this. Yeah.
You tweeted about the polls though, because we were talking about obviously his approval inching up in some polls. You said same poll, Dems have a 20-point advantage among independents in generic poll for November. We didn't hear so much about that, did we?
No, and the press seems completely obsessed with Trump's approval rating among his base. And a couple things. Yeah. The number of people who identify themselves as Republicans is shrinking and shrinking and shrinking. So he's got an 85% approval rating among a group of people who are less than 30% of this country.
Right.
So, and the other thing is, I remember when Obamacare rolled out and, they had the problems with the computer and their website didn't work and it was a 2-week fiasco. Does anyone remember any reporting back then saying, but his base supports him, so everything's fine? Yeah. This is a completely manufactured, concocted way to cover a president. Right. No president, Democrat or Republican, has ever been covered day in and day out, but his base loves him.
Yeah, no, exactly. And
it's maddening.
Right. Yeah, and I think part of it is, he has made us so divided and so tribal that you're right, that there's that hardcore base that are literally, some of them are saying, we don't care if Russia helped. We're good because at least Hillary's not president.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But it's interesting, going back to the problems the Republicans have on Russia. The Washington Post poll on Sunday, 66% of Republicans support Trump on Putin and the summit and all that stuff, and you think, wow, 66%, that's a lot. It's not. He's so massively unpopular among Democrats and independents, he's got to be at 85, 90, 95%. So, again, there's no reason his base wants to capitulate to a foreign country. That's not why Trump ran to be president. But, again, it's just another indication that if you have a racist immigration policy, your racist base is going to love it. If you've decided you're going to be a puppet for a foreign country, even 35% of the base is going to look at that and say, this doesn't make sense.
Right.
So they have a problem there.
Yep. You tweeted, how many people on the Hillary Clinton campaign were informally advising the Kremlin in 2016? That would be 0. The tweet that keeps haunting, or the Hillary line that keeps haunting me is her saying, if you can be baited with a tweet, you're not fit to be president. And I thought, good God, look at this Iran tweet last night, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And other people have been posting that amazing clip of Hillary during the debates when she lays out the 2-minute argument why exactly, Trump is a Russian puppet, how he's going to try to get rid of NATO, how he's going to, not provide sanctions and on and on. I mean, word for word, it's just amazing.
Well, it's interesting. The
She
Post
nailed all of it.
Yeah, the Post today has a piece about the entire Republican Party is becoming a Russian asset. And you tweeted it was a crazy week, but let's not forget how House Republicans were exposed for trying to cover up the Russia NRA scandal. I think at the end of the day, Eric, is how many of these people are going to go down, that are going to, be named in this Mueller stuff.
Yeah, and last week, one House committee, every Republican voted not to, it was another attempt to kind of block an investigation into the Russian hacking. And, people, you kind of have to come to the conclusion in terms of the the entire Republican Party being an asset or the cover-up the way it is how many of them there are we might have talked about this before. How many Republicans are going to rely on Russians again in 2018? Is that why they kind of shrug when they see these polls that show their, disaster looming in 2018? Is that why they refuse to do anything to try to shut down attacks? Dan Coates apparently is trying to sound the alarms, but the Republican Party seems to have absolutely no interest in trying to shut down interference in 2018. And when you just look at the evidence that mounts, you think, well, maybe they're banking on Russian help again in 2018.
Obviously,
They certainly haven't signaled that they want it to stop.
Yeah. I'm doing my patriotic best by muting all of the Russian trolls on my timeline. But anyway, Eric, great stuff. As always, I saw you in Joy yesterday, and can I just say I don't tell you enough how handsome you are.
Oh, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
I thought it's lost in all your smarts.
Thanks, then.
All right. Thank you, Eric. See you next week. There he is. Fernand Armani was on, too. And I feel like in all my slobbering over Fernand, Eric Boehlert, a very handsome romantic man.
He is.
And he's a very soothing voice.
Yes, he
Like,
does.
there's many horrifying things going on, but when I hear him speak about them, I'm like, it's going to be okay.
It has a good soundtrack.
Yes.